gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Let's talk about somebody who's winning as well, but this time in the world of the judicial system. Winning. Jon Gruden, who has been eager to find out the full truth of what happened with all these crazy emails that essentially got him fired back in 2021. The NFL tried to petition for a rehearing in the court of Nevada. Nevada said, no.
Unanimously.
Not happening. You guys broke the Constitution. You went out of your way to get this man fired. You released emails that damned him and defamed him and essentially stopped him from getting any job as an analyst, coach, or otherwise for the last 5 years because of it.
To Miami.
I mean, at this point, or LSU. But
I'd be happy either way.
I mean, true. The NFL's next move is to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, which is a possibility from what they're saying. They are considering taking this all the way to the top to see if they can somehow squeak their way out of explaining why Roger Goodell and the NFL pressured the Raiders into firing him essentially by releasing these emails back when he was an analyst. Now, granted, what he said in those emails is not acceptable. Everybody knows that. Nobody's saying that what he said is acceptable. However, cancel culture has really made a thing out of going back in time 5, 10, 15 years and grabbing the worst of somebody, piling it all together and pretending like it was just said yesterday. And that's essentially what the NFL did to Jon Gruden. And now, with the Nevada High Court saying, hell no. Hopefully the Supreme Court will rule similarly. And we can go. Yeah, all this could go away. We could just sweep it away. Gruden wins. NFL has to explain what the heck happened with those emails.
You still let them, do you think they let him coach again?
It's kind of like the Brian Flores situation for me. I've said it when it came to Brian Flores, and it's really weird to me that Brian still has a job, but it's not because of how good of a coach he is. It's because I don't know of a single organization that'll let you sue them and still work there at the same time. So, realistically, probably not.
That's all.
Or at least not in the next 5 to 10 years. You got to let this die down, especially if they lose the case, because if you don't think the NFL owners are going to be salty about that, and Roger Goodell, because Roger Goodell will be salty. He has to give up a couple mil.
That's what I'm thinking. I think they'll probably let him go to college and let the Goodell contract play out and probably a whole new regime before he ever gets to coach again.
I think so. Or at least at the pro level.
Which I don't agree with anything that was sent in those emails.
Absolutely not.
But he's a hell of a coach, and we've seen crazier things.
I could go back in time and literally anybody's social media that's listening to me right now, we could find something that could get you canceled. Let's be honest. If you're my age, you were using slang terms at the time, but now that are seen as hate speech, and we were throwing around on Facebook and YouTube and all over the place, Instagram, wherever you want to go, like it was candy. So before we start throwing stones from our glass houses, let's realize that this man was essentially damned. They took a guy who, at the time, was the head coach of the Raiders on the way from Oakland to Las Vegas, and for some reason just decided he's too big, we don't want him here, and we're going to release everything that we have on the guy. They had this file probably sitting in a file cabinet for a while waiting to release. And then John did something to anger Goodell and the owners. And they said, all right, fine. Here's this. Bam. And defamed him. And for those of you who don't understand how serious that is, he literally couldn't get a job. And this is Jon Gruden we're talking about. Somebody that you all, if you watch football, know very, very well.
Chucky.
Thank God for Barstool Sports. But this guy was essentially thrown out to pasture on a deserted island and told to survive after the NFL completely defamed him, and canceled him for nothing, or at least from what we understand. I need to find out what led to the release of the emails. And that's what all of this is going to boil down to, is we're finally going to figure out that answer.
That pushing point that said, oh, you know what? Yep. The NFL is going to release all this.
Because if I am Jon Gruden's lawyer, first question I ask any NFL official while they're on the stand is, why'd you do it? What led to the release of the emails? Why did you release these? And how long were you sitting on them? Because to me, that's also damning for the NFL. Because they were sitting on those for a while, which means you were completely okay with him sending these emails and saying all of this stuff to his staff and everybody else that these emails were sent to until you decided that it wasn't okay. How many other people are in the league right now that you're sitting on with that kind of situation, with that kind of information? That doesn't look good for the NFL. It really doesn't. But no one ever looks at it from that side of the coin. At this point, though, I really hope this does go to Supreme Court, because there are a lot of questions about this that I know Jon Gruden wants answered. There's a lot of questions that I have that I would love to hear answered. And to be honest with you, the NFL, when it comes to this type of stuff, needs to have the book thrown at them. It does. Because as much as we all love football, and as we said yesterday, football is king. But the Shield needs to know that it's still an organization within the bounds of the American government and the American judicial system.
That's what it is.
So
that's what needs to happen.
We need to teach a lesson to Roger Goodell and these owners, not even just with this Gruden thing, but also with the Brian Flores thing. You've got to hit them with it. They're not above the law. And to sit on this type of information and defame a man, it shouldn't be okay. It shouldn't, because if the NFL can get away with this, who's to say that your job's not going to do the same thing to you? And if it's sanctified by the Supreme Court, by the way, it'll be sanctified by every other court underneath it as well. Because they will just use this as an example. So trust me, everybody should be rooting for Jon Gruden.
It'll be the Gruden rule. But We'll take a break. We'll wrap up the NFL talk.